All right, hello and welcome to my channel Beat Slavery with Racha. Today I have a very special guest, my very good friend Gabrielle, who is tirelessly fighting human trafficking overseas everywhere. And she's young and she's fierce, and I'm so happy to have her today speak to us about her experience in fighting human trafficking in different areas in Asia. So, Gabrielle, please go ahead and introduce yourself.
Thank you, Racha, and thank you so much to everyone that is listening and viewing this today. It's important, around the globe for as many people as possible to just take the time to learn more and engage more. I'm the executive director and CEO of Free for Life International. We are based in Nashville, Tennessee, but we work all over the globe. So we work actually in 5 different countries, and we're currently growing as we speak. So right now we work in Latin America and Guatemala and the Dominican Republic, but we also work, our kind of cornerstone projects are based in Nepal and India and Thailand. And that's really, I want to kind of talk about today some of the differences and really similarities between trafficking in the United States versus trafficking in Asia versus trafficking in Latin America, and kind of touch on some of that.
Yeah.
We work in 4 different areas. And I think today, Racha, if I'm correctly following, we're really going to focus primarily on some of the programs in Asia. But we work in prevention care. So we work with the most at-risk populations on a global level, which are orphans and foster care children, and really children living in extreme poverty. That's the most at-risk group on a global scale. And we provide a prevention curriculum to orphan care organizations, partnering with them to train the facilitators, the orphan care workers, and then thus they train the children to really give them methods and approaches to be able to identify when a trafficker comes into their life and tries to manipulate them, and how to really help protect them from falling into the grips of trafficking. And then our cornerstone project is our rescue initiative. And we have that set up on one of the most trafficked borders in the world, which is the Nepal-India border. And that program we've had for over a decade, and we've transitioned it from being on the Nepal side of the border to now we're on the India side of the border. But it's really, and one thing to think about for all of you that are listening is that when you're working with other countries, and maybe you're a US based organization or an individual based in the United States, you still have to have collaboration and work with the local government of whatever country you're working with in. And so for us, when we transitioned into India, it was a big ordeal because oftentimes they don't allow in US based organizations into that country any longer. And so we are actually only one of 2 US based organizations that they've allowed to do rescue initiatives on the India border. And through that method, we've actually rescued 1,300 women and girls through that particular program, which we are so.
Wow, congratulations. That's amazing.
Thank you. And then our other program which is in Thailand, we have a safe home set up there. We take in both minors and adults at different homes. It's a no time limit care, which is really important for those of you that are diving deeper into kind of understanding even the licensing for having a shelter. Domestically in the United States, it's something where if you want to have a license for a shelter, they have specific time limits that you are required to fit within. So you can't hold a survivor at your home for more than 2 years. But for those of you that have worked with survivors, realizing that the recovery process and that healing process looks different for everyone. And so for us, it's really important that we give that space to allow each person to take the time that they need, while also upon leaving our safe home, having jobs and skill training, and really being able to decide what they want for their life and have a full sustainable life following trafficking.
Mm-hmm.
And then our 4th program, which is it's our scholarship program, but it's open to any survivor in the entire world. We fund educational and vocational training programs. And that's really something we've seen a lot of success here in the United States, but really it's an opportunity for anyone around the globe that wants to really get an education or become trained in a specific area.
So tell us a little bit more about these opportunities. Like what exactly? Like if I know someone, how can they benefit?
From the scholarship program,
Yeah.
particularly?
Yeah.
So what we do, and kind of one thing that's very important to us, as I keep kind of mentioning, is quality care and long-term care. So for us, we're not trying to give out one scholarship for a semester. We want to walk with each recipient of our scholarship program through to graduation. So whether that be graduation from a vocational training program, currently, for example, right now, we have a woman who is pursuing welding, so which is really amazing. So once we have funded her entire program for her to become a trained welder, but other women that are in a university system, we will fund them, you know, from the time they become a part of the program through graduation. And so really the only requirements are that you are a human trafficking survivor and have lived at some point in a rehabilitation facility, because we like to see some of that stage of healing. One thing we've noticed is that a lot of times it's not successful for a survivor to go straight from, you know, rescue to actually, you know, becoming educated and doing those trainings. They need that kind of space to really focus on themselves before they can do that. So those are really our two main requirements, but we do require also a letter of support from an organization that has worked with them previously. And that is really all that is required. So if anyone is listening that is a survivor of human trafficking and you live anywhere in the world and you're looking for resources, please reach out to us, and we would love to be able to, you know, take you through the application process.
Yeah, that's amazing. I will definitely make sure I spread the word about that. I didn't know about this program, to be honest.
Oh, well, I'm glad you know now.
Yeah, I'm glad I do now. So tell us more about, yeah, like what types of trafficking you encounter? Like what are the stories that you want to share with us that might make people see things differently in their lives?
Well, I think that one thing that is really important to identify is that what is the difference between trafficking in the United States and trafficking around the world? And the ways that I always describe what is human trafficking and how do people become being trafficked, I think there is a huge misconception, and you may see this differently than I do because you're coming from an international background. But for a lot of the people that we work with, as far as that I encounter it, you know, out in the community, they compare human trafficking to the movie Taken. And so there's this big misconception that I see that people think that it's people being taken, but really what it is that traffickers identify a vulnerability in an individual and they take advantage of that, and they use that to their advantage to lure in someone. So the vulnerability that I see in the United States is primarily emotional vulnerabilities, not having their emotional needs met, and that could also be physical, but a lot of it is emotional needs, not having a healthy family structure and feeling fully loved and feeling fully a part of something. And lack of confidence in certain things. But the number one vulnerability I see on an international level is going to be poverty and desperation and the need and desire to just feed your family and provide for yourself. And so really the stories that we encounter, mostly because we primarily work internationally, is that there is just such a level of desperation with the women that we're working with that have come out of trafficking, because what really got them into those situations was the desire for a better life, the desire to, provide for their family, the desire to go to school. And so it's really based in these deep issues that we are struggling with as an entire world to solve poverty and to provide opportunities to women and little girls and education. And so that's why it's so important when you're looking at any type of eradication of human trafficking, that you start at the ground level. You can't start here and expect to end human trafficking. You have to start at the ground level of how do we lift people out of poverty? How do we give people the appropriate approaches to being educated, being independent, not marrying your children off while they're teenagers, and little things like that. So
yeah,
that's really,
yeah, it's important to work on the root causes. Yeah, a lot of people do not think it's related to the root causes itself, like what's going on in your community, in your hometown, in your neighborhood.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So tell us more about the work you're doing in Latin America.
So in Latin America, we are really working only on the prevention side. We're not doing rescue or safe home. And a lot of the issues that we're seeing there, again, rooted in poverty, but also a lot of migration. So any country that we work in, we see a lot of flows of migration coming up from the south into some of these other countries. So for example, we're about to go to Peru to work with several organizations there. And one thing that we're seeing as a huge problem in Peru is Venezuelans fleeing Venezuela to come to Peru to be safe, but they're being specifically targeted, for trafficking because of how vulnerable they are and how desperate, again, that they are to really be safe and to provide, and coming from everything that they've come from. So we see that a lot. We also, we look at what types of trafficking are happening in different places. So primarily in Central and South America, we see, sex trafficking, labor trafficking. We see a little bit of child beggars. We've seen a little bit of child soldiers happening with narco-terrorist groups, but otherwise it's going to be specifically targeted towards those types of trafficking. We also see, in each country, there's its own unique particular types that are tied to it. So for example, our work in the Dominican Republic, we've seen a lot of individuals being trafficked on cruise ships, to say, oh, I have a job for you on a cruise ship, and then they end up being trafficked on that cruise ship. So really identifying that although there are similarities within trafficking across the globe, that there are also unique aspects in each country that, historically and culturally and geographically, that shift the way trafficking looks in those areas.
Definitely. And what do you say to our young viewers who want to find a way to get engaged? Since you're young and I'm young, how can we tell them to, just join the cause, join the movement, take action in your local community? What do you give them? What's your advice on that?
Well, first I would say to all of you out there that are young, kind of using both of us as examples, is that just because you're young, just because, the world may not view you as someone that can be a world changer and make ripples, you can. So just believe in that, and don't give up and be discouraged by people that are older than you telling you that maybe you can't make a big difference or you're not old enough to, and that's not true. So stay in there and stay encouraged. That's one thing. The other thing too is that the only way that we're going to make a difference in this is by educating as many people as possible. And that's part of what this campaign is about, is to, help this go viral, help this really get out there so that as many people can hear. The more that know, the more that we're able to truly make a difference. So talk to your friends, talk to your communities, give a presentation at your school. Those little things actually make a difference. Yeah. The other thing I would encourage you to do is, pick an organization that you really love and try to be a part of them, so that you're not just standing there on a platform by yourself saying, I want to fight human trafficking. You say, I'm on a platform, I'm partnering with Free for Life International or Not for Trade, and we are doing this, this, and this. So that way people see that there's a solution when you present the problem, and that solution comes from a partnership with an organization. And just to give you as an example, we have chapters of awareness and fundraising heads, and I've had 3 high school and young college age students start their own chapters in their communities. One was in actually China, and she was able to raise thousands of dollars and bring awareness to hundreds of people. And so you can have that platform with another organization that, you can use their materials. So that is one thing too. And to really find what you're passionate about. Some of you might be passionate about awareness. Some of you might be passionate about rescue, prevention, shelters, and picking that so that way you can really hone in and become an expert on that particular thing. Don't try to solve the huge problem of 40 million. Just focus on what you can do, who you can talk to, the communities that you have access to share this information.
Amazing. That was really well put. Good job. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Gabrielle, for being with us today. Do you have any final thoughts, or was that it?
I would say my final thought is just to remember that, all of those of us that are fighting trafficking, we are an army and we need you, and we're all in this together. We're all a family fighting this together. And I just want to say welcome, and I encourage you on the fight.
Yay. Well, thank you so much. That's great. It was really great to have you. Thank you so much, and keep up the great work because the world needs you and needs more people like you. And yeah, we will be in touch. Have a great
Great.
day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.